All right, let's talk about a network feature that's, well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a fantastic shortcut for speed. But, and this is a big but, if you use it wrong, that same shortcut can bring your entire network crashing down. So yeah, today we're going to demystify PortFast. So, have you ever plugged your computer or a printer into a network jack and just waited, wondering why it isn't connecting instantly? I'm betting you have, and you're not alone. The thing is, that long pause, it's not a bug or a glitch. It's actually happening on purpose for a very, very specific reason. Yeah, we're talking about a wait time of anywhere from 30 to 50 seconds. I mean, in a world where everything else is instantaneous, that can feel like an absolute eternity, right? So, what on earth is your network doing for that whole half a minute? Well, like I said, it's not a bug, it's a feature. A very deliberate, very important safety feature. Think of that delay as your network being extra cautious. It's playing a little waiting game to make sure everything is safe before it lets you in. And the protocol responsible for this is called the Spanning Tree Protocol, or just STP for short. Its number one job, its whole reason for existing, is to prevent something called a network loop. Now, a loop is bad news. It's basically when data gets trapped, circling endlessly between switches, creating this massive traffic jam, a digital storm that can literally crash the entire network. So to stop that from happening, STP acts like a bouncer, carefully checking every new connection before it lets any data through. You see, a standard switch port doesn't just flick on. It has to go through this really careful step-by-step process. First, it starts in a blocking state to prevent any loops right off the bat. Then it spends a full 15 seconds listening to understand what the rest of the network looks like. After that, it spends another 15 seconds learning the addresses of devices on the network. It's only after that whole 30-second plus process that it finally gets to the forwarding state, where you can actually send and receive data. Okay, but let's be real. Waiting 30 seconds for your PC or printer to connect is, well, it's just annoying and honestly a bit unnecessary. And thankfully, network engineers totally agreed. They thought there's got to be a better way for these simple connections, and that's exactly why they created a shortcut. Let's talk about PortFast. And this quote really nails it. The whole idea behind PortFast is that it basically tells the switch, hey, I trust this device. Don't worry about all those safety checks. Skip the 30-second wait and just open the port now. But, and this is super important, this shortcut isn't for just any old connection. It's specifically designed for what we call end devices. You know, things like your PC, a server, or a printer. These are the devices that sit at the very edge of your network, and crucially, they're the kind of devices that just won't create a network loop on their own. So, how does PortFast actually pull this off? What's the magic behind the scenes that lets it just skip the line and ignore that 30-second delay? Okay, this comparison makes it crystal clear. On the left, you've got the standard slow and steady process, that whole journey through blocking, listening, and learning. But look at the right. With PortFast turned on, it just skips the middle two steps completely. It goes straight from blocking right to forwarding. Boom. And that's it. That's the entire trick. Just bypassing those two time-consuming states is what gives you that awesome, almost instant connection. All right, this all sounds pretty fantastic, right? So how do you actually enable it? Let's dive into the actual commands a network admin would use. So the first way to do it is on a port-by-port basis. An administrator can go into a specific switch interface and just turn it on. This is super useful for, say, a dedicated port for a server or a printer that you know is never going to move. And the command for that is simply spanning tree PortFast. But, you know, doing that one by one can be a pain. A much more efficient way is to enable it globally. With this command, you're telling the switch, hey, from now on, automatically turn on PortFast for any port that's set up as an access port, which are the ports meant for end devices anyway. It's kind of like a set it and forget it policy. And the good news is, you don't need fancy brand new equipment for this. PortFast is a standard feature that's been around for a while. It works across all the major versions of Spanning Tree, whether you're using older protocols like PVST+, or the newer, faster ones like Rapid PVST+ and MSTP. It's pretty much universally supported. Okay, so we've talked about all the good stuff, the speed, the convenience, but you know the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. And now we have to talk about the PortFast danger zone. Seriously, if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this part. Here it is, the single most important rule. You must never, ever enable PortFast on a port that connects to another switch or hub. I can't stress this enough. If you do this, you are telling the switch to completely ignore its own safety protocol, which opens the door for the exact kind of catastrophic network loop that Spanning Tree was invented to stop. And when I say catastrophic, I mean it could take down your entire network. This slide lays it out perfectly. It's good versus bad. On the left, you see the correct way. A switch port with PortFast enabled connecting to a PC. That's safe, it's fast, it's exactly what it's for. But on the right, that's the disaster scenario. A PortFast port plugged into another switch. That is incredibly dangerous and a guaranteed recipe for a network meltdown. You know, the official technical documents often use cautious language, like it may cause a loop. But let me tell you, don't be fooled by the word may. In the real world, if you connect a PortFast port to another switch, it will create a loop eventually. It's just not a risk you ever want to take. So let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway here? The bottom line is this. PortFast is an absolutely fantastic tool. It makes the network feel faster and more responsive for users. But that power comes with one simple, non-negotiable rule. Only, and I mean only, use it on ports that are connected to end devices, like PCs, printers, and servers. And that really leaves us with a bigger question, one that goes way beyond just networking, right? We're always trying to make things faster, more efficient, more convenient. But it's always a trade-off, a balancing act. And you have to wonder, at what point does bypassing safety for the sake of speed stop being a cool feature and become a really dangerous bug?